Lawmakers are looking into what they believe are targeted attacks on U.S. diplomats. Several officials have reported mysterious brain injuries that could be tied to the use of sonic technology. The most recent example happened roughly 5 years ago at the U.S. Embassy in Havana, Cuba. More than 20 diplomats reported strange symptoms, now known as Havana syndrome. And here is the head of the CIA today addressing Congress on his response.
I've met with 3 different groups over several hours of my colleagues going back to Havana who've been affected by these incidents, simply to make clear to them not only my personal priority, but that we take very seriously what they've experienced and that I have enormous respect for their sacrifice and their dedication, and that we will get to the bottom of this. And then I've also appointed a senior agency officer reporting directly to me to lead an effort on both of those dimensions, ensuring people get the care they deserve and need, and also making sure we get to the bottom of this.
Diplomats working in China and Moscow have reported similar brain injuries after their work abroad. And earlier today, I spoke with journalist and author Sharon Weinberger. She is a specialist in defense and intelligence coverage, and we discussed the possible explanation for what is happening to these officials across the world and the challenges for investigators looking for answers. What do we know now about who may have been to blame?
We know very, very little, and that is the problem with all of this. We're seeing part of it is there's a lot of secrecy around the personnel because these were, we now know through reporting, these were primarily CIA personnel. So even, for example, the National Academies of Sciences, which was asked to review a good part of this issue, were not, they didn't have access to the people who were actually affected. There's a lot of lack of knowledge about who exactly was affected and what they were affected, and even what symptoms, if they're really all part of this Havana syndrome, or was there a core set that were affected, and then a lot of people who, oh my God, I woke up, I have a headache, I feel dizzy, and maybe it's a real health effect, but was it linked to whatever happened in Havana? We just don't know. There are a lot of theories and a real lack of evidence.
Sharon, the CIA, of course, was criticized for its handling of this issue when it was happening. They are now looking into it. The CIA director, Bill Burns, says they will be investigating this. What do you expect to learn from this investigation, since it has been so secret? And also, what hurdles will they face in trying to uncover some answers?
I think it is good that the CIA is taking this seriously. I mean, clearly there are U.S. government personnel who have suffered health effects, but we need to look at this scientifically, which is we need to start without presuming what the cause is and try to find out what these personnel are suffering from and what could be the causes. I think there has been a history of the U.S. government not taking these things seriously or jumping to conclusions. We don't know if these were from microwave weapons. I believe that is a possible but quite far-fetched possibility, but there could have been other things that were either used to purposely hurt these personnel, or it could be something that was by accident. We just don't know, and we don't have enough evidence yet.
And Sharon, based on your reporting, the time is now to find some answers, because you are concerned, as you've written, about what our adversaries will do if the U.S. waits too long to address this issue and find out what the cause is and what the potential harm could be down the road.
I don't think the adversaries are what we have to worry about. I think we have to worry about U.S. government personnel, a number of whom seem to be suffering real health effects, and we want to know what the cause of it, both so that these people can have the best course of treatment and also to prevent it in the future. I have consistently said that the engineering just doesn't seem to support that there is some sort of secret microwave weapon that explains all of these personnel who are reporting these symptoms. It is certainly a possibility that directed energy caused these effects, but I find the evidence for it right now very weak. And if we pursue only that line of investigation, and it turns out it was something else, a toxin or an insecticide or something that poisoned them, these people are not getting treatment. So I think we need to find out what caused it and not jump to conclusions and let the science sort of run its course. And I'm not seeing a lot of that right now. I'm not very optimistic.
Sharon, appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.